Love beyond the cane. Io falls in love with Jeka, a girl from a tribe his father once forbade him to marry from. To prove his love, he endures the same painful tradition his father once feared and unites two divided hearts forever. Io never thought love would come to him, not in a world where poverty shadowed his every step. He was a gentleman, the quiet one on campus who wore the same shirt too often and studied late into the night because he couldn't afford to fail. When others laughed at his old shoes and empty pockets, Jeka, who was known as Tessie across campus, didn't. She saw something else, a gentle strength, a young man who refused to give up. She helped him copy lecture notes, brought him snacks after class, and made him laugh when his world felt heavy. Her laughter was like wind chimes, soft, pure, and alive. When her friends teased her, "Tessie, why are you close to that poor Yoruba boy?" she just smiled. "Because his heart is richer than theirs," she would say. And so their friendship grew quietly, like a seed watered by kindness. But far away in a small house in the same town, Io's father, Shei, carried a memory he could never forget. He had once lived in a community far from his hometown for 20 years and had seen things that shaped his fears forever. He had watched young men during their festival, stripped to their waists, beaten with canes under the scorching sun. He saw them bleed and yet stand tall, refusing to cry. And when he asked why, an old man told him, "If a suitor flinches or cries, he is weak. He cannot marry a Biwa maiden." From that day, Shei swore no son of his would marry from that region. "These people test love with pain," he often said. "Our hearts are not built for their customs." Years later, that same fear came back when Io told him about a girl named Tessie. But Io didn't yet know the full story of who she was. Weeks passed, and one quiet evening after class he asked, "Tessie, where are you really from?" She smiled, her eyes glowing. "From a Biwa community. My native name is Jeka." Io froze. The words hit him like thunder. In an instant, he heard his father's voice again. "Never marry from there. Never." He stood up, numb and confused, and walked away without a word. Jeka followed him, calling, "Io, what did I say? What's wrong?" But he kept walking, leaving her standing there in tears. Days turned into weeks. Io tried to move on, but everything reminded him of her. Her voice, her smile, even her name written in his notebook. At night he couldn't sleep. When he looked into a cup of water, he swore he saw her face on the surface. Jeka too became a shadow of herself. Food lost its taste. Sleep left her. Every dream was filled with Io's smile. One afternoon, after a long lecture, fate brought them together again on campus. Their eyes met, and all the walls they had built crumbled in silence. Jeka ran to him. He held her, and for the first time in weeks, they both felt alive again. Later, under a tree, she asked softly, "Io, why did you walk away from me that day?" Io took a deep breath. "Because my father told me stories. Stories about what it means to marry a girl from that community. I was afraid." She smiled sadly. "Love should make us brave, not afraid." Her words stayed with him. That night, Io went home and told his father everything. "She's from Abiwa, father, but she's the one I want." Shei's face darkened. "No, you don't know their ways. Do you want to be flogged like an animal just to prove your love?" Io didn't argue. He simply went to his room and refused to eat. One day passed, then two, then three. On the fourth day, Shei found his son weak and pale. "My son, you'll kill yourself," he said. Io whispered faintly, "Then let me die for love, because living without her is worse." Something broke in the old man's heart. He saw in Io the same courage he once admired in those young men so many years ago. "All right," he said quietly. "If her family accepts you, I won't stand in your way." Days later, Io stood in Obiwa, surrounded by drummers, elders, and a crowd gathered for the festival. He wasn't Obiwa, but he had chosen to honor their tradition, to prove his love for Jeka. The sun burned hot as he took off his shirt. The first strike of the cane cut across his back. The crowd gasped. He didn't move. The second strike came, sharper than the first. Blood rose on his skin. Still, he stood tall. Jeka, watching from afar, cried silently, her heart breaking with each lash. By the sixth strike, his legs trembled, but his eyes stayed fixed on hers. Love gave him strength where fear once lived. When it was over, Ubara, Jeka's father, rose from his seat and approached him slowly. He placed his hand on Io's shoulder and said in a deep, proud voice, "You have done what even some sons from our land cannot. You did not cry. You did not fall. You have earned not just my daughter's hand, but my respect." The crowd cheered. Jeka ran to Io and held him tightly, tears of joy and pain mixing on her cheeks. Later at their wedding, Anelli, Jeka's mother, placed her hands on Io's head and prayed, "May your courage always be greater than your fear, and may your love unite what others divide." Shay, Io's father, stood in the crowd, eyes wet with pride. He whispered, "Now I see, love is the strongest tradition of all." And that night, as drums echoed through the quiet hills of Obiwa, two hearts from different worlds beat as one, proving that true love doesn't see tribe, wealth, or fear. It only sees the heart.